I think every single person in this locker room is a competitor at the highest level. So, yeah, when you feel as if your backs are against the wall, you never have to feel like you got to do it by yourself.
Unbelievable throw. Under pressure. Sacked by Quentin Williams. Right sideline, Usaba's got it.
You look to your left and your right, you got guys out there with you that our whole point is to help each other.
This one to Mims. That's Corey Davis climbing the ladder.
To be able to go out and lead these guys, just to know how hard these guys work and how important it is to them, and then you get that chance to lead them. Everything that happened that needed to happen for us, it almost felt like kind of like a sign, like you get like a second chance almost.
Gets extra pushes, running left.
Maybe a little extra life to breathe into the locker room.
Touchdown Jets.
Welcome to the cockpit. My name's Ryan, and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am oh so excited to talk to you, boys and girls. I'll have our boy BuffaloJetFan on in just a few minutes. He's running a little late. We're going to do this the same way we do it always. We're going to discuss the topics of today, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. And I want to hear from you guys. Get to call in. 3 minutes on the clock. After 3 minutes,
Listen, you're out of here.
that's right, you get the chicken. You don't want to get the chicken. Daily Duke says, where can I get that hat? Amazon, my friend. Amazon. Muffiles drops in and says, new chicken, I see. That's right.
Listen, you're out of here.
New chicken. Did a little fun stuff with the layout over here. Decided to have a little bit of fun. See what pops up. Boys and girls, oh man. Derek Carr signing with the New Orleans Saints. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? 4 years, $150 million. Did the Jets just shoot themselves in the foot? Poll questions in the chat. Who do you want now that Carr is off the table? Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Jimmy G, or other? Comment in the live chat. I'm curious to see who you guys are looking at. The overwhelming favorite right now, clearly Aaron Rodgers. Going to cost you significantly less in terms of draft capital to get Rodgers. Lamar Jackson has a massive contract, seemingly a large trade package that's going to have to follow him as well. If he gets the non-exclusive franchise tag, it might only be 2 first-round picks, which really changes the narrative on Lamar. Because if you were thinking 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks, and now it's just 2 first-round picks, does that change your opinion? Former MVP, 26 years old. Get you thinking. Alfred says, here's your choices. Keep Zach Wilson, my friend. Get a quarterback. Coach either Steve Young, Kurt Warner, or Richard Pennington. Is that Chad's actual name? I just thought it was Chad. Muttvile says, I'm going to get the chicken just by mentioning Herbert or Jamal.
Listen, you're out of here.
Yep. Let's see. Mr. Uglis says, give Jimmy G the chicken. I understand. I understand why you wouldn't want him. Daily Duke says, trade Zach Wilson and 2 firsts for Herbert. I got some snow. It's wintertime. You want to buy some of that? Yeah, I would love to get Herbert for that. Good luck. Be more expensive than Watson. Nick says, Ryan, if we lose out on Rodgers, we got to get Richardson. I don't think we can trade up that high. I think Richardson's going to go number 1. I really do. If the Jets missed out on Rodgers and Lamar, I don't know what it would cost to get up and what you'd be willing to give up to go up and get the quarterback. Like your most valuable trade chips are guys you don't really want to trade. I don't know. I don't think Richardson's going to be a realistic option for us. Kentucky Jet says, lure Brady out of retirement. I think Brady has a realistic shot at going to the San Francisco 49ers. That seems like the most likely scenario. And then I would say Miami would be the other one. Those two teams come like September, if Brady's like getting that little itch to return, I think he could come out. Alex says, I don't know why Jet fans think the Jets have the Rodgers deal done. He hasn't even made a decision and don't expect him to till late March. What makes you think he's going to wait till late March? He told us he was going to tell us the beginning of March on the Pat McAfee show. So it's going to be, we'll find out soon. I bet we find out, I think tomorrow. But yeah, the Jets can talk to the Packers about a trade. Like if the Jets know the Packers aren't going to hold on to him, you could negotiate a trade. You could have a trade totally worked out, and then it's just a matter of, is Rodgers retiring or is he playing? Because the Packers may say, hey, you don't have an option to come back here. Tyrone says, I'll say in my opinion, Ryan, if we cannot get Aaron Rodgers, I'd say Jimmy Garoppolo and re-sign Mike White as backup. I guess if Jimmy G doesn't go for a whole lot, but now that Geno Smith has gone for $35 million a year and Derek Carr's gone for $37 million a year, or whatever his number worked out to be, I'd gotta think Jimmy G is going to get at least 35. I think he's going to get at least what Geno Smith got. 3 years, 105. I think that's the benchmark for him. And if you're signing 3 years, 35, and you're already paying Zach $10 million this year, I don't think we're bringing back Mike White. I think he's going to wind up signing with Miami. Aha! There you go. New York Jets Smoking Lounge. Coming the newest member of the channel. Thank you so much. That was awesome. That was really cool. You were the first person to actually see that. I made that new alert the other day. Kind of cool. Thank you. Check out your new emojis in live chat. Got some JETS popping in there. What else we talking about in here? JD Decker says, how many primetime games do you think the Jets will have this season with Rodgers? I think the Packers or Broncos, I don't remember which one I saw, had like 5 primetime games. So I think the Jets would get 5. I think you probably get Dallas, probably one of the division games, Kansas City, Patriots, probably along with Bills, maybe Giants. I think the Jets will wind up getting 4 though. 5, sorry. Ooh. Stephen Paul, thank you so much for becoming a member of the channel. You're the MVP. Tigo says, if Rodgers doesn't end up happening, give me Minshew with Hackett for a year. Hackett took Bortles to the AFC Championship game. He could do it with a Minshew-Zach-led team. I have a hard time seeing Minshew winding up on this team. Because I don't know if he's like the long-term answer. Like, I don't... Charles Gorman! What's up, dude? Frequent flyer member of the channel. Much appreciated. I don't know how Minshew winds up on this team. I would like to see it, because I do like him and his potential upside, but I don't know... Like, I think it's probably these 3 quarterbacks. It's probably Rodgers, Lamar, or Jimmy G. And they're going to swing for the fences on one of them. And I'm a little worried that it could end up, I don't know. I just don't want to pay Jimmy G a ton of money. Either way, if we wind up getting Rodgers or Lamar, I'd be pretty happy. I just want to get one of them. Matt A. says, I'm convinced Jet fans are devastated that they didn't get Carr because they have to trade draft picks to acquire Rodgers, which is less to play around with on their draft simulators. Yeah, I think a lot of fans don't want to give up draft picks because they're so much fun. The draft gets really boring if you don't have any draft picks to play around. I would say I would definitely trade the picks for Rodgers. I don't want to trade first because now our draft live stream becomes very boring through the first day. So a second round pick is perfectly fine because I think we could trade down in the first, pick up another second, boppity boppity boop. But yeah, I think that is something Jet fans have a hard time grasping, especially since we have like not the best track record in terms of draft. Now I know with Joe Douglas we have had some pretty good success, but there becomes a point where veteran players on a win now team are more important than the development of a young guy that might take a year or two. I think you have to kind of pivot there. Red John says, would you give up 2 first-round picks if the Giants tag Jones? If they give him the non-exclusive tag and the transition tag, I don't know. I mean, I guess we offer a contract, and then if he signs it and the Giants don't match it, they get the 2 firsts. I would consider it, I think. It depends what the contract's for. It sucks because you'd probably wind up having him for like a 3-year contract. 2 firsts for Danny Dimes. I don't know. That's tough. That's a tough one. I think because of where we are with Zach, and we'd have to strike out on a few different things for me to wind up wanting to trade the 2 firsts for Daniel Jones. It's on my list at some point, but it's pretty far down there. Kevin Cunningham says, very nervous with Carr off the table and only betting on Rodgers to land here. No, I think we have more than just that. We got Jimmy G there and Lamar. Worst case scenario for you. God damn if I have to watch Zach all season long. That's the worst one. Nick says, if Lamar becomes the quarterback to get because Rodgers goes elsewhere, wouldn't Fields be less costly and basically the same style player? No, I would definitely take Lamar over Fields. I like Fields. I don't see Douglas wanting to bring in a quarterback he passed on and giving up an extra first after he didn't draft that guy. That just seems, maybe he won't, maybe he would consider doing it, but it seems like that would be a far-fetched thing to see. Jean says, 35 years of sadness, no guarantee of Super Bowl with Rodgers. Big mistake. Oh, man. Scary stuff. Fungus Among Us. Just click the like button. Thank you. I see Blitz Crew in there. How you doing, Blitz? Says, if we strike out on Rodgers, Wentz might be a bridge. He is still better than Zach last year. Yeah, I don't like Carson Wentz personality, but I can understand maybe the thought that could work out all right. Gives me the heebie-jeebies, though. I think Wentz is a dick. Oh, God. Oh, Jed for president. He says, Mike effing White. Look forward to calling in. I don't want to. I like Mike White. I just don't know if I want him to be the guy that we're hanging our Super Bowl hopes on. That scares me a little bit. Heisman Hennessy. I like how people say Richardson has to sit and other quarterbacks don't. I like to know how y'all come up with this. Yeah, right? I think Richardson definitely has to sit, though. I mean, he looks super raw. He does not look like a very good passer. We got our buddy in. Let's see if he's ready. BuffaloJetFan, give me a thumbs up if you're good to go. Cool. And, whoops, hit the wrong button. Here we go. Bam! What's up, dude?
What's going on, man?
Can you hear me? Hanging in there. How is your night going?
Long day.
I hear you. It's been a long, stressful day with Derek Carr signing, and now one option's off the table for the New York Jets. How are you feeling now that Derek Carr is no longer an option?
Well, I've been team Plan A Aaron Rodgers, so I guess there's only so much I can complain. But when I did see the tweet, my stomach did drop a little bit, and I was like, "Oh boy, I'm nervous. I'm definitely a little nervous." But I guess the Plan A has been Aaron Rodgers all along. I wonder to what extent Derek Carr really had interest with the Jets. I get some Kirk Cousins vibe, so maybe more information will come out on that. I'm not panicking yet. But I think all along we all said Rodgers or Carr, and 50% of that is off the table. So it's a little nerve-wracking for sure.
Yeah, I've heard people say like, "Oh no, I wanted Carr the most," but I think there was rationale for both Carr and the Jets to have there be the opinion that it looks like the Jets would go after either one of them. Like, I think Carr wants to raise his value. I think the Jets at least wanted to let him, hopefully he would wait a little bit in case the Rodgers thing didn't pan out. But I think there's a lot to like with losing my train of thought. I think there's a lot to like with Carr if he had come here. I don't think that it was necessarily a lock. I think him, maybe he does buy into the warm weather thing and playing in a dome with his former head coach that believes in him. Not to mention their salary cap situation is in such a weird state that the way they're going to have to structure this contract is a little funky. So I think he might have some potential longer term stability because his contract may not look quite so high in years 3 and 4 as long as he plays to his kind of career average here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's so many unknowns. Like, number one, we know what the contract was with Derek Carr, and it's pretty steep, almost $40 million a year. Somebody said my audio is off. Do I sound okay to you?
Yeah, you sound fine to me.
Okay, good. Just double checking. I checked my settings. Everything looks good on my end, but
yeah.
Just double checking.
No, you look good.
And then the draft compensation for Rodgers, now you have to think maybe the Packers have a little bit more leverage because now it's like, well, before that you had a fallback option with Derek Carr. Now you're kind of all in on Aaron Rodgers. Who blinks first? It's man, we have to come away with Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. And then the wild card in this too is tomorrow there's a possibility that the Ravens could do the non-exclusive tag on Lamar, and I think he's been kind of put to the outside as just a wild card, not really sure. Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers. I'll tell you what, if they miss out on Aaron Rodgers, I would make an aggressive push. I don't know how for sale he is, but if it's the non-exclusive tag, I would offer up those 2 first-round picks and try and outbid Baltimore before I went down the Jimmy G, Jacoby Brissett aisle. I mean, you don't want to operate desperately, but it is what it is. If we miss out on Rodgers, are you willing to sell the farm for Lamar or what?
Yeah, I am. I would go after Lamar. I'm not as concerned as everyone else is about the Lamar Jackson injuries or the money. I think the money's going to look, minuscule by the time he signs this deal. Because once you sign Herbert and Burrow and like these other contracts that are just about to hit, Lamar's contract is going to look like peanuts. Now, if he winds up getting hurt and he misses, a lot of time, and you wind up getting the RG3 style of like doomsday situation, then I think fans have a right to panic and whatnot. But I think if I miss out on Rodgers, I miss out on Carr, I have no problem rolling the dice on a 26-year-old former MVP. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, and look, with Lamar, there's concerns, right? He's the injury. None of the options were going to be perfect. With Derek Carr, it's like, okay, how good is he really? He's never won much. I never put too much stock into the never been good in the cold, but not a perfect option. Aaron Rodgers, the age, the draft compensation. Lamar is interesting because the draft compensation and the contract would be the biggest, but also I think he's the youngest and he has the most upside. So if you just say, whatever, you know what, we're going to have a top 7 talent at the quarterback position and keep the core of our team together and then bank on Joe Douglas getting us some starters in the mid rounds and we'll roll that way. That would be far and away more exciting than anything we've seen in a decade. Like Lamar Jackson in a Jets uniform by itself would be worth the price of admission. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, could you imagine Lamar, who's had success with like a heavy run style offense? So you got Breece Hall, you got Carter, you got Bam Knight, and with tight ends, you got Uzama and Conklin and Rucker. Like there's just like already the like sort of foundation for having a consistent with what Lamar has already done sort of situation, but also the boom possibility of like, hey, I want to be throwing the ball more, and I want to show that I'm a quarterback. I'm not just a running back behind the line of scrimmage or anything like that. I think Lamar does want to throw the ball a little bit more. I think he just wants to feel loved, and I think players around the NFL really like Lamar. I think there could be some players around the league that maybe don't love Rodgers quite the same way. Lamar, for me, is very interesting. Jennifer says Buffalo Jet fan's headphone mic is pulling audio rather than the standing mic in front of him. So you're,
Oh,
maybe you're.
is this better?
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't sound off to me.
I don't
But
know. I joined how I always did. There's so many options that all just say microphone.
what microphone are you using? Yeti?
It should be coming in through here now. Does that sound any different?
No, it sounds the same. There should just be a little setting.
Default.
They're saying you sound
Microphone.
far away. Interesting. I wonder
How
if it's something
about
on mine.
this one? No.
Nope.
Do they all sound the same?
Yeah, they all sound exactly
Okay.
the same.
How about this? Give me one.
Tap your microphone. See if it's like. Yeah, it sounds like it's coming through there. Maybe it's
Maybe it's better now. I don't know.
Oh, whoa. Hold on. What did
Hello?
you just do?
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah,
Is
you
this
sound
good
better.
now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. My bad.
I think that's right. Can you? Yeah, there you go. Okay, everyone sounds.
Okay.
Fixed.
Now we're back.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
That's all good. Yeah, no, I'm on the Lamar train. If you can't get Rodgers, you missed out on Carr. You know, I don't know who else you're bringing in. I think the Jets would probably look towards Jimmy G, but if he's going towards the Patriots, I would 100% be all in on the Lamar train. Like, do you have any concerns with it at all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if Lamar was a free agent, I would pay him an unholy amount of money. If he was on a rookie contract, I would love to trade a whole bunch of picks. It's doing both. Like three. Now, if he gets the non-exclusive tag, you probably have to pay 3 first-round picks. If you look at Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson as benchmarks, then the $250 million guaranteed for a guy who has missed the last 11 games at the last 2 years. And I'm not going to say he can't throw. Not going to say he's a running back, but let's be honest, a huge part of his skill set is his elite rushing ability. So yeah, that is a massive concern, but I would still roll the dice on that. Now that Carr is gone, if we miss out on Rodgers, I would still roll the dice on that rather than trying to go for Ryan Tannehill or Jimmy G or Jacoby Brissett or drafting a quarterback. I think that would still be my next best option after Aaron Rodgers, or even depending on the trade composition, maybe even better than Aaron Rodgers. If it's a 1 and a 2 for Rodgers, which I don't think it would be, but hypothetically, if it's a 1 and a 2 for Rodgers, or just the 2 firsts on the non-exclusive tag for Lamar, like go get me a 26-year-old. So we'll see how it goes with Baltimore. I think the problem with Baltimore is Lamar's agent is a family member. So it's not like an agent who's plugged in who can kind of talk some sense into him and say, hey man, like this is kind of not going to work. No one's going to pay you that. So I think Baltimore is trying to do this so to show that no other team is willing to pay the price. I think they're trying to call his bluff a little bit.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens because I don't think, they offered him the $250 million contract. They only gave him 3 years fully guaranteed. They didn't give those last 2, and that's where that $100 million discrepancy came in. I think there's going to be a team out there. I think Atlanta, who offered the fully guaranteed contract to Deshaun Watson, I think they would be willing to pay that same kind of contract. The only reason they didn't get Watson is because they weren't going to guarantee it. Like, if he was convicted, the Browns were like, yeah, screw it, we'll do it. With Lamar, I think you're getting a former MVP, and you're getting someone who has been clean as far as, off the field stuff. I like Lamar. I think he can get that money elsewhere. I think when you start talking about 2 first-round picks, then it gets, interesting. I think you're gonna have to write him a contract of $235 million or $240 million fully guaranteed for the 5-year contract. Like that's what he's gonna, wind up signing. But I don't even know if Baltimore would necessarily match it because I don't think he necessarily wants to be there.
Yeah, I think he doesn't want, and this is something else that we'd have to consider for an acquiring team. I get the feeling maybe he doesn't want to play the same way in terms of now he's going to run. He's always going to use his legs, but I don't know if he wants to be a quarterback who rushes for 1,000 yards every single year because history tells you you don't last as long. And if you don't last as long, you don't get paid as much money. And maybe that's part of the reason that Greg Roman is out of there. And he's like, all right, dude, I want to play an actual regular 21st century offense. Get me some actual receivers. Get me an offensive coordinator that's not just a running quarterback guy. and I'll take off and run. I'll use my legs, kind of like Josh Allen runs, but he also wins from the pocket. And I think that might be a transition that Lamar is looking to undertake. And will there be a team that's willing to pay him, trade the picks, and meet that request? Probably, yeah. If you're looking at Atlanta, and Atlanta's about to roll out Desmond Ridder, that's probably Lamar Jackson is probably a better option than that. Yeah, I think he does. And the Ravens would probably prefer to trade him out of the conference.
Yeah.
So it might be a situation where, hey, this is the NFC price. Oh, AFC price, another second round pick. So it'd be pricey. But again, I can't do Tannehill or Brissett, man. Like, I can't do it.
I know. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it. Do you know if, like, how does the transition, or not transition, how does the non-exclusive tag work? Like, does the Ravens get to pick which one they want to do, or Lamar picks his contract and then whichever team he wants to go to? Because maybe he doesn't want to go to Atlanta. Maybe it's like the Jets and Atlanta both offer him a deal. He wants to go to the Jets. So now the Ravens are stuck trying to get the 13 pick from us versus the 8 pick from the Falcons, or something goofy like that. Like, does Lamar have a lot of control in this? I guess he kind of does, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like how, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a no trade clause, but he kind of does because he's Aaron bleeping Rodgers. I think it's a similar kind of thing. I think if you're an acquiring team and you're paying that much for a player, you're gonna, and maybe he has to pick a few teams that he'd be willing to go to, but it's not like he's gonna get shipped off somewhere where he's absolutely miserable and doesn't want to play. Now, the law of it, I'm actually not sure. This whole, the transition and the non-exclusive stuff is the Lamar Jackson is kind of the first player that I really that I've heard those those terms come up, because usually with quarterbacks it doesn't even get to this point. But you have to have the feeling that Lamar Jackson is going to want to sign an extension and be with that new team for a trade to take place.
Yeah, no. I know that, but I mean, like, if Lamar liked, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's not the team offering Lamar a contract. It just has to be Lamar accepting the contract. Or if Lamar accepts a contract from like a bunch of different teams, that's stupid. That wouldn't work. That wouldn't make any sense. That's dumb. Sorry. Talking myself in circles here. Joe S. dropped in with Super Chat. Joe S. says, Jets are finally not settling for second best. In reference to Carr not signing here. What did you think about, like, the mediocrity aspect of Derek Carr, where people kind of think he's not, a Super Bowl caliber quarterback? You're signing him, and then all of a sudden you're signing up for, like, Pennington for a bunch of, meh years.
Well, number one, Joe, what's up? Joe's a good dude. Joe is very anti-Derek Carr, though, so I knew, Joe, I thought about you today when I saw the tweet. I was like, Joe's going to be very happy. I've been higher on Derek Carr, I think, than most NFL fans have for the longest time. I thought he's been pretty underrated in a kind of a crappy situation. And yes, it's hard for me to imagine Derek Carr ever winning a Super Bowl, but hold on a minute. Like, there are some other goals that are worthwhile for this team that I know that not a lot of people want to hear it. I'm not a big, every year you don't win the Super Bowl is a complete failure. I think he could have provided stability, durability, competence, grown-up professional quarterback play that this team hasn't had in a long time, and probably taken you to the playoffs. Now, he's never had a defense that's finished higher than 19th. He is 31-15 when his defense allows 24 points or less, and the Jets defense allowed 18.5 points last year. So I think you could have done some winning with Derek Carr, but the Jets clearly have viewed Aaron Rodgers as plan A. But I think I would have been fine with Carr. Like, if the tweet today said Derek Carr is a New York Jet, I would have been happy about that, to be honest. I would have.
Yeah, the whole losing Derek Carr, I get the vibe like maybe he didn't necessarily want to be here. I think he could have won with Derek Carr. I've been pretty steadfast in my thought process of, like, okay, I've seen him under 4 different head coaches, 5 different offensive coordinators in 2 different cities. Like, he's going to put up stable numbers at the very least. And then when you talk about, his personality side of things, it's like, well, if he is willing to take a little bit less, like maybe he was willing to go for 35 to the Jets versus 40 to the Saints. Like, maybe that was something that they did think about. I think his potential of maybe taking less would have looked good with the rest of our young players. I think with Rodgers, he's had his team over a barrel the last few years, so I think it doesn't necessarily maybe teach you what you want him to teach the young guys. I don't know. We'll see. Blitzcrew says Lamar to Atlanta. Carr's life got a lot harder. Yeah, I think Lamar going to Atlanta seems like the most logical spot given the destination. Do you know any logistics as far as like if Lamar signs if they decide to say, hey, we can get way more for Lamar than 2 first-round picks? Like, what's to say they don't exclusive tag him and then allow every team to talk to him? Because then that would be the right of like the team, right?
They
Like
could absolutely
Baltimore?
do that. It'd be different financially if no team wants to acquire him. But I think they could get more than 2 first-round picks. I think if they exclusive tag him and they want to shop him and they say, go find a team that will pay you your contract and we'll work out the trade compensation, just like the Raiders were doing with Derek Carr when he was meeting with the Saints and he was going to meet with the Jets. I think that, like, again, if you look at the Russell Wilson package, who was like 7-8 years older and had never won an MVP, I think you'd be looking at 3 first-round picks and then maybe some change. And I think they could easily get that. I think that if they non-exclusive tag him, they are just trying to call his bluff and they want him to be a Raven. They just want it to be for their number. If they exclusive tag him, then I think he might end up playing elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. If they non-exclusive tag him, they're finding out his true value on the open market. Right. But if it winds up being his number, they're just okay getting the 2 first-round picks, like as opposed to just giving him the contract and not knowing it offhand. Because maybe his top contract offer is, about the same as what the Ravens offered him initially. And then Lamar, I don't know what Lamar does. Does he sign a shorter-term contract, or does he sign the longer-term deal and have, maybe staying on a team a little bit longer? He's one of the more fascinating quarterbacks I think we've seen come along in the last few years because of the polarization of his perceived lack of, I don't want to say lack of an arm, but the perceived notion that he's only a running quarterback when you look at his yards per attempt. If he had a bunch of attempts, he'd have more yards than if he had the same amount of attempts as Tom Brady this past year, which was an ungodly amount of attempts. He would have had a 5,000 yard season. Lamar is a good passer. He relies on his legs to open up some of those passing lanes, but that's okay. I mean, as long as he's not taking big hits, which he really hasn't. The 2 times he's been injured, he's been hurt from inside the pocket. Now it's, maybe moving around a little bit in the pocket, but it's not like he's running around taking a big hit from a linebacker or something like that. You think he could stay healthy, if he goes to a new team, or is that do you think that's maybe a bit of a concern?
It's one of the biggest concerns. We've rarely do quarterbacks who run that much age gracefully. It's definitely a concern. Now I don't know of any quarterbacks who people who say he's a running back. Well, I don't know of any running backs who have led the league in touchdown passes because he did that. He was 37 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The dude has an incredible arm. Also with Baltimore, they've been a very well-run organization. Defensively, they're always good. Up until recent years, they've had a good offensive line, obviously an all-world tight end in Mark Andrews. But they have spent the least amount of dollars since Lamar Jackson has been their starting quarterback. They've spent the least amount of dollars at the skill positions on offense of any team in the league. He has never had a running back or wide receiver who was top 15 in the league, and they've just ignored that. And I think imagine what he could do if you asked him to run a regular offense and then run as a secondary part of his game. I think he could be pretty damn good, and you could get the best of both worlds where he's not hurt as much. It's just the contract and the trade compensation made him my 3rd favorite option because I would rather sign Derek Carr for no picks, or if it's Aaron Rodgers and you could do really cheap draft compensation. But now that Derek Carr is the first domino to fall, I think you have to circle back to Lamar, and I'd absolutely I'd make a call, man. I'd make a call and I'd make an offer because we can't go home empty-handed.
Yeah. Do you think, does it change for you if it's the exclusive tag? Because the money aspect doesn't really mean much to me because it's, you're going to restructure that contract however you want to restructure it, and it's going to be for more than the $45 million that the tag is anyway. But does the compensation that changes, if it's a 2 first-round pick for the non-exclusive tag versus let's say it's 3 firsts and 2 seconds, is Lamar then off your table? It's weird, right?
mean,
Because you're like, oh, I like these lottery tickets. Like, I could get an MVP
Yeah.
quarterback. It's like, Family Guy when they're going to get the boat. It's like, oh, you can get a boat, or you could have what's in the mystery box. It could be a boat. Like, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there has to be a walkaway number at some point. I think 2 first-round picks would be a no-brainer for Lamar. I would do 3. Once you go beyond that, like somewhere, like I wouldn't do 4 first-round picks, for example.
Yeah.
So somewhere between 3 and 4, like if it's a 3 first and a second, it's like, I think anything more than 3 first-round picks are starting to get a little bit too steep, considering you have to make him, one of the top paid quarterbacks in NFL history.
I completely agree. We've hit that point in the night. I think we're going to take some phone calls. Boys and
Nice.
girls, I'm going to drop the link in the live chat. You can see that. I'm going to pin it in there if you guys want to call in, ask us a few questions. You get 3 minutes on the timer, and after 3 minutes,
That's it. You're out of here.
that's right, you get the chicken. Ugh. If you guys are just hanging out here, make sure you hit that like button. We got like 600 people in here. Got 142 likes. Some baloney. Look who we got up first. We got our buddy, Mud Vials. What's up, multivitamins?
What's up, guys? Here?
How goes it, brother?
That's the first thing. Good. All I gotta say, though, is that some people in chat are crazy to me. Why am I hearing people wanting to subscribe to the Book of Wentz for QB just because Derek Carr's gone? Why?
It's because he's the former top pick or whatever. Could have maybe,
2017, man.
I know. Hey,
What
Jared
was
Goff
he-
looked
what
pretty
was
good
on?
this year. Right?
No.
Hey,
Wentz is
4
trash.
teams in 4 years. Are you telling me you're slightly concerned with how that might work out?
You know what I believe in? I believe more that Justin Herbert will get traded before Wentz has an MVP season. You know this.
Oh man, I can't see Buffalo. You think any way Herbert gets traded? I know the Chargers have been kind of notoriously cheap in the past, but I can't see it happening.
They never paid Rivers either when he was up.
I don't know about that, but I agree that I do not want Carson Wentz. The only good thing about Carson Wentz is that he looks like Jake Asman. Everything else about Carson Wentz sucks.
I saw that.
I saw that right before I got on.
We got Richie looking like Mike White. We've got Asman looking like Wentz. Who looks like Rodgers? We gotta find. He's got a little gray in his beard. Maybe he looks like
Green
Bean.
Bean.
Green Bean is our Aaron Rodgers. So Mudfiles, I got to ask you, where do you think the Jets go? Like, is it like what percentage do you see Rodgers? What percentage do you see maybe a Lamar Jackson or something along those lines?
At the moment, though, it's going to be. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is the most sense, though, because he's the most clear cut of what's going to happen, though. Because all he has to do is walk on Pat McAfee tomorrow and be like, "Hey, I want to get traded. I'll play, but I want to get traded." While Lamar, we have to wait for what Baltimore wants to do with their tag, which they only have till 4:00 to figure that out.
Yeah, right. McAfee, the show is what, 12 to 3 o'clock. So it's like, all right, is he going to make the decision? We had heard that we weren't going to find out on the Pat McAfee show. Like, he'd talk to the Packers first, but I could see a situation where he's like calling the Packers just before he hops on, and then McAfee's like breaking the news as to like where Rodgers wants to go. Like, I could see them playing that kind of game. I hope. I got heartburn. I'm just waiting for this to drop. Trying to be nuts.
I just have that feeling, though, that it's going to be someone that we're not expecting. Like, if Lamar's gone or if they're both available, I just have a feeling it's going to be a quarterback, though, that we're not expecting. Because didn't Woody Johnson say that he'll go after anybody that's available? And if they're not available as well, he'll still give it a shot? That's where the whole Herbert thing came in for me, too.
If Herbert's an option, I'd trade my entire draft for him. Like, I think Herbert is fantastic. I would give up whatever it takes. I'd give him a fully guaranteed $250 million deal. Don't care. Absolutely. Like, full on. They're not going to trade him in the division, though, or in the conference. Like, that's another one where they'd move him to the NFC. I don't even think I don't think they're going to get. Yes. You know what that is?
We've seen stranger things. That's all I got to say with that, though. We've seen stranger things happen in this league.
I'm trying to eject you. There. Wait. There it goes. Look at that chicken. It's screaming going across the board. Now it's frozen. My computer is hating me. My files. You're out of here. Charles Gorman joining the chat. Charles, how you doing tonight?
Hello, Jet. Damn it. Hello, Buffalo Jet fan. Hello, Ryan.
Hello. How goes it tonight?
I became a member for the second time on your channel, Ryan.
I saw it.
I
Thank you
became
very
a
much.
freaking flyer this time.
I'm
That was-
touched. I'm absolutely honored. Thank you so much.
And I love the fact you're wearing that Jets Hall of Fame T-shirt for 2023.
I got my Revis
Look
one
like
in the
a-
back. I just like the Kelly green a lot more than the Hunter green. Like for this pop.
So I ran into the chat like, why do we have so many morons in the chat spewing nonsense? Like, I'm not saying every Jet fan.
I love our morons in the chat, Charles.
They drive me freaking crazy, man.
They're
It's
my
like, what the hell?
morons. They're our morons.
Unfortunately, yes. But I am kind of upset we didn't get Derek Carr. But you know what? I wish him the best of luck. He's a good guy. He's a good dude. I hope to God we get Aaron Rodgers. If not, here's my backup option: Minshew Mania, baby. Gardner Minshew.
Ooh, Buffalo. How you feeling about Gardner Minshew as an option?
I like Gardner Minshew better than a lot of people. I think there have been starting quarterbacks in the NFL over the past few years that he's better than. But that when Woody Johnson and Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh took the podium at the end of the year presser and said, we're going to get the quarterback position solved, that ain't what we were all picturing. I mean, come on. We gotta do better than that.
But Aaron Rodgers says, "Fuck it, I'm retiring." Like, what are you gonna do? Like, I'm
going for Lamar, dude. Charles. You don't want to go for Lamar at all? Is he off your table?
He's probably one of the few the next to last on my list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like Lamar Jackson. I think he's a much better player than what many people say. I mean, I've been hearing in the chat, too, that people calling Lamar Jackson a bum. Lamar Jackson's overrated this. And I'm just like, the guy's the MVP. Was the MVP back in 2019. And I understand people talk about him more when he's running with the football than him throwing the football. But he's not a bad passer.
No.
I understand. I think there's a lot of options before I would wind up getting to Gardner Minshew. I like Lamar Jackson. I like Aaron Rodgers. If both those guys are gone, maybe you start poking around like, I don't know. You're probably looking maybe like what could happen with Dak Prescott. Like that would be something maybe you start poking around at. Buffalo, you think there's anyone that is like out there that we're not thinking about that might be on the market?
I mean, yeah, there's names like Dak and Stafford. None of those really excite me. You're talking about a lot of dead money and giving up draft capital. Yeah, I mean, look, if Ryan Tannehill stays put and Jimmy G goes to Vegas, you could be shopping in the Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew aisle. My God, at that point, do you just say F it and take a quarterback at 13 like that? I don't even want to get there, man. I think you have to if Rodgers and Lamar don't work out. Man, it's going to be desperate times. I don't even know what you do. I really don't.
Charles, you have been ejected from the cockpit. I think I have too many people in the green room. I think that's what's going on. The chicken's like hating me right now. It's not flying across the screen the way I want it to. We got Sam. Sam joining. Sam, how you doing tonight?
Good. How about you guys?
I am hanging in there. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm just going to say I think this whole not signing Derek Carr thing has Woody Johnson's grimy hands all over it. It seemed, based on what I've seen on Twitter, that all the players wanted Derek Carr, management, the coaches, but just, it's like something was holding them back from pulling the trigger on signing that contract.
Yeah, I've heard a few people say that. Yeah, I've heard a few people say that they think that it could be something along the lines of like Woody's pushing for Rodgers and everyone has to fall in line. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think it's probably similar to what the fan base feels like, where it's like 50% of us were thinking Carr, 50% of us were thinking Rodgers, and then you were thinking maybe Carr because the money was going to be a little bit cheaper and you don't have to get the draft picks. If you can get Rodgers for a second-round pick, though, and that's what they think the contract is going to ultimately be or the trade would ultimately be, I can understand not going for Carr and going for Rodgers. Sam, are you okay with a Rodgers trade, or are you like, what's your stance on him?
Yeah, I'm fine with the Rodgers trade. I think if your plan is to roll with Zach Wilson after Rodgers is done, that's probably your best bet right there. If you want to, use the 5th year option on him to have him a year after Rodgers will probably be gone. But But as long as the only thing is, I think it'll be maybe a conditional pick next year, maybe a second with a condition like playoff condition becomes a first, and then you throw like a fourth or a fifth in there to, have Green Bay take on some of that contract.
Yeah, I would love to see if like we wake up and there's a trade for Aaron Rodgers. It's a second round pick, a conditional pick next year, and the Packers are eating 25% of the salary. Oh, that would be magical. What do you think, Buffalo?
Yep.
What do you think it ultimately works out to be with Rodgers?
Well, I hope like with the Woody Johnson, I'm seeing a lot of that stuff on Twitter. It seems like a lot of speculation, but I'd be pissed off even if we get Aaron Rodgers, but it's only because Woody wanted it, and the rest of the brass and the coaches, the players, that shouldn't really factor into a ton. But if Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh wanted it one way, and Woody put his foot down, you can't run an operation like that, because this team started to actually rebuild and get better when they had football people making football decisions. And if Joe Douglas is the GM, you got to make him the GM. Woody, you can cut the check. That's your job. That is your only job, is to cut the check and raise season ticket prices, apparently. And it just, if Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh want Aaron Rodgers because they feel like they have a 2-year window where they can chase a Super Bowl, so be it. Let's effing go. But if Woody Johnson wants Aaron Rodgers, just so he can justify the increases of season ticket prices, and he wants the Jets on national TV, and it's just a business transaction, then I don't want any part of that. And that would really suck, because I don't want to go too deep into a rabbit hole with this, because I don't know how true it is, but you got to wonder if a guy like Joe Douglas even wants to operate like that. You can't run a business like that. You got to let the football people make the football decisions. That was the whole point of actually having a chain of command. And I hope that Woody didn't intervene. I really hope that's not true.
Yeah, I get the feeling that a lot of it's speculation, and I think there's probably, I bet Woody does want Rodgers. I think a lot of people do want Rodgers, but I think it's also entirely possible that Douglas and Saleh think, hey, Rodgers is probably a really good option for us. I think Saleh maybe doesn't want to deal with the bullshit of the flip-flopping back and forth of what Rodgers might be doing, and you could have just had Carr. I think that's more so what it is. But if Douglas has been talking to the Packers, like, Douglas isn't sharing this information with all these other people throughout the Jets organization. He's going to be talking with the owner. He's going to be talking with Saleh, and that's going to be the inner circle right there. So I think there could be a trade worked out where the brass sees Rodgers as like, oh, we're only going to get him for a second and a conditional pick. Like, that is better than Carr on like a 4-year deal or something along those lines. I think it's entirely possible. It is a concern, because I don't think Douglas wants to operate that way, just like Buffalo said. Sam, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. All right, we've got Fabian coming on. Fabian, welcome to the cockpit.
Hey, what's up, guys? Buffalo Jet fan, pleasure to talk to you. Ryan, always a pleasure, bro.
Good to have you on. What's on your mind? How you feeling about this Carr news?
Yeah, I think the Jets lost a little leverage, but I think they're going to gain it back if they give Lamar the non-exclusive tag. They could start playing them. I think the Jets have been playing this pretty good. They've been playing it. Carr signed a little earlier than maybe they expected, but I think Aaron Rodgers is the goal. But personally, if they give Lamar the non-exclusive tag at 4 o'clock, at 4:01, I'm calling him and his mom. What do you want? If it's 2 first-round picks and the bag, I'm going for it, man. 26-year-old MVP who might have not even hit his ceiling yet. I don't even know what we're talking about. And I like Aaron Rodgers. If we get him, I'll be happy. But I'm telling you, man, Lamar excites me. And I know he's not a great passer. He's a good passer. But you said it, man. He led the league in touchdowns when he did. I don't know. Hey, what do you guys think?
So, Buffalo, if you think that, let's say the non-exclusive tag goes on Lamar, and we find out Rodgers wants to come back, on the Pat McAfee show, because the Pat McAfee show is supposed to be, I think, 1 to 3 o'clock or so. The deadline for the tag is at 4 o'clock. It's all kind of hitting right at that same time.
Yep, exactly.
If you see both options on the table, are you going Rodgers or Lamar?
If it's the 2 ones for Lamar, I'm doing that. I'll give me the 26-year-old. Because if it's Rodgers, if it's for half the draft compensation, I'd roll with Lamar. Now, if it's the other tag and you got to give up 3 first-round picks plus for Lamar and then it gets interesting.
Right.
But if it's 2 ones for Lamar, that becomes Plan A, in my opinion.
They're crazy to do that.
Yeah, well,
the
that's just it.
Ravens are
That's why I
crazy.
feel like they would have to do like the exclusive tag. Like what? Like
They
I
have
feel like
to.
you could have all the benefits of the non-exclusive tag just by saying we're gonna allow you to talk to everyone. Like at that point, they're just saying we're moving you at this point.
Yep.
Like I feel like the non-exclusive tag is just you're shooting yourself in the foot from a compensation standpoint.
I think in today, 2023 March, with the quarterback needy teams, especially the Jets, who look like they're going to do whatever it takes, it's not smart. Maybe another time it would be smart to give him a non-exclusive tag, but I don't think anyone's going to hesitate to give up 2 first rounds for someone like Lamar Jackson. And then, yeah, obviously you got to give him the bag too. But just a quick thing, you can't give up more than 3 drafts ahead. You were talking about 4 first-round picks. You can't do it unless you have 4 first-round picks in the next 3 years, right? Am I not wrong about that?
No, you are correct, but it's actually so you can make that trade. The Jets wouldn't be able to do it right now. We'd have to wait till draft day. You can do 3 years. So since the draft is on that same, you could do
exactly,
4 as it's 3 years out. Yeah, it's a little goofy. The NFL has that rule where like, you can't go more than the 3 years. Fabian, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit.
But again, they can just to be clear, the Ravens do have the opportunity to match any price. So I think why they might do that is they might want to just show Lamar, look, we like you, we want you to be here, but what you're asking for is we don't think it's reasonable. And if another team does match it, and then they can make a decision. They're like, okay, well, he could actually get this somewhere else. So then it's a little bit of a gamble because then you kind of decrease the compensation you can get back. But I think if they non-exclusive tag him, they want him to be back there. They just want to show him like, look, dude, just because the Cleveland Browns signed one horrific contract to Deshaun Watson doesn't change the market forever. Like if one house sells in my zip code for an obnoxious price, does that mean every single house forever? It's like, no, that one person made a bad buy. Like, and that's what they're trying to show Lamar, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how it ultimately works out, because if they're doing the non-exclusive tag and they you say, hey Lamar, what were they not going to give you? What was the contract? Oh, it's it's $250 fully guaranteed 5 years. Okay, here you go. Hand it over. Now do the Ravens say, hey, well, he could have gotten it elsewhere. He could have gotten it elsewhere. We might as well sign that deal. And now they sign him. Or are you now like, because if you're making the offer for Lamar, now you're like, okay, well, now we want to go above and beyond. Or there's a situation where if they think that the bridge is burnt with Lamar, which I think it is, maybe they do go with the exclusive tag and just allow him to do it, and they just say, screw it. Like, we know we're getting 2 firsts for him anyway. Let him negotiate with any other team. We'll take at least 2 firsts. I think that's where they could go with that. Sorless comes in with a super chat, says, why would Lamar want to go to the start of a rebuild in Atlanta when he could come to a team that's further along like us? I think Lamar wants to go to a team that's going to pay him a lot of money, and I think Baltimore wants to trade him out of conference. I think that's the big piece of this, and I think Lamar could have a lot of fun with Kyle Pitts and Drake London over there, not to mention Derrick Henry may end up being moved. Could you imagine Derrick Henry winds up with his former coach down in Atlanta with Lamar Jackson? That'd be a scary situation. They got a shit ton of money down there they could spend.
Crazy. Yeah, and I think there's other factors that come in. Like, as a fan, we just look at, oh, why would that guy want to go there? He couldn't win. But there's where he's living, weather, playing in a dome, taxes, being close to home, being in the worst division in football. Like, if Lamar goes to the NFC South, like, he could win that division by himself. Like, just having Lamar on your team might make you the division favorite. So I think there's other factors than just the best roster. Like, yeah, I think the Jets obviously have a better roster than the Falcons, but there's obviously other considerations when guys are trying to get that second contract.
Yeah, especially since he immediately becomes quarterback 2 in the NFC, 1 maybe. It's him and Hurts, figuring Rodgers gets traded out of conference or retires. Like,
oh yeah, he's better than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. So like right there off the bat is enough reason for him to want to possibly go down there. Joe, you're an Atlanta Jets fan. What's up, brother? How you doing tonight?
I'm exhausted.
Emotionally or from like work today, or both?
No, it's just from all this quarterback stuff and Aaron Rodgers this and Derek Carr. Man, I'm exhausted. But I do give you credit, Ryan, because you called it on the nose and you had me thinking second thoughts last night as well. Because I was making a TikTok about it But then I had to delete the whole video because Derek Carr did what he had to do. So,
So what did I call?
Like, it really gave me a second thought about it. So I'm thinking this is really chess. Like, it's chess. Derek Carr might have just pulled his card a little bit quicker than we expected, but he did what he did just to get more leverage. Because once I seen that tweet that he always wanted to go with New Orleans Saints regardless, I was like, yeah, that pretty much confirmed it.
Yeah, I mean, it just sort of made sense, right? Like the whole time, the months leading up to it, it was McDaniels not believing in him, so him obviously wanting to go somewhere that believed in him. The coach that drafted him in a dome in a weak division that's going to give you the money you want because you leverage the Jets.
Exactly.
Like, I think the Jets are fine with being used as leverage because there was a part of me there for a while that thought our options in our mind were Rodgers 1, Jimmy G 2, Tannehill 3. And I think that could still be the case, although I think Lamar winds up getting wedged in there with the potential of the 2 firsts. Atlanta, what do you think?
I still don't believe it.
What do you think about Lamar?
Oh, I don't think it's gonna happen. I gotta see that. Seeing is believing on that one. I have like that is in the back of my mind. Like I don't believe that for one bit. I mean, that's just reality. Because if we even get Lamar, I know Quinn's out the door. Like pretty much everybody who's planning on re-signing is gone. If in a sense.
Yeah, that would be scary, right? Like if you give Lamar the $50 million a year he's looking for,
exactly.
It's like, okay, let's sign him to like a 10-year contract. Do the Mahomes deal where it's like it looks really good right now. Like Mahomes is like I think he's like the 5th highest paid quarterback right now, and he signed for like $500 million or whatever that contract was.
Yeah, I'm not even really for it. But
so let's say Rodgers doesn't come here. Let's say Lamar's not an option. Who's your next quarterback? Talk to me.
It's got to be Jimmy G. As much as I hate that.
Jimmy G goes to Raiders. Who's next? So when you pull the ripcord and you say, nah, screw it, I'm jumping out.
It was like, Tannehill. If not Tannehill, we probably have to settle for Mayfield or Minshew. Well, I wouldn't be mad if Baker Mayfield was a quarterback. I really wouldn't be mad at all because
I wanted Broadway Baker for a little bit there. I love me some Baker. I don't love me some Baker right now. Joe, you're a legend.
Never die.
You've been ejected from the cockpit. I love doing that mid-sentence. We got Joe. Joe joining us. What's up, dude? Welcome to the cockpit.
What's going on?
Hold on. Wait, did I click that? I may not. Yes, I did. What's going on? How you feeling about this whole car situation, Joe? Joe?
Get unmuted.
I see. Hold on. Did you call in twice? I have you 2 times. Let me see if this is... Joe, is that you? Hold on. You muted yourself. I think it says, I muted the guest. Now you muted the guest. I'm going to boot you. Call back in. All right. Let me try. We'll go to Will. Go over to Will first. Then we got Mike the barber. Will, how you doing tonight?
Yo, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. How you feeling about this whole car situation?
I'm pretty pissed, to be honest. It's not even like I really wanted Carr. He's not bad, but he's just – I wanted Rodgers first and foremost because I don't think Lamar is even humanly possible. So I think the reason why I'm so upset about Carr is just for the leverage standpoint now with Rodgers because they probably think that today's price is not yesterday's price anymore. And now we're just going to get shafted when it comes to the trade, and I'm kind of pissed about that. But he's got to make a decision.
Yeah, I wonder, Buffalo, what do you think? Do you think this creates more leverage for Green Bay, or does Rodgers kind of dictate the leverage? Because I feel like Green Bay, like if Rodgers says, I'm going to this team or I'm staying on the Packers, like he screws the Packers.
Yeah, but I think still it's in an ideal world, if the Jets were going to get Aaron Rodgers anyway, you still would have liked to have traded for him before Derek Carr signed. You still would have liked the illusion of the option of Derek Carr being there in terms of the Packers trade. It's tough with the Jets versus the Packers. It's like if Aaron Rodgers really wants to be out of there, it's who blinks first, man, because they got a contract they maybe want to unload. But yeah, it does suck that Derek Carr that first domino fell. That's definitely not ideal. And I think the price can only the price can only go up. So which team is more desperate? Are the Packers more desperate to move off of that contract of Aaron Rodgers and give Jordan Love a shot? Or are the Jets more desperate to save face and get some sort of quarterback? That's the question. And the only thing we don't know is there usually with these things, there's always one wild card team. There's always one wild card team that nobody was reporting that's lurking beneath the surface. And if they can arrive at the 11th hour and there's a bidding war like there was with Tyreek Hill, then yeah, I think the Packers definitely, their leverage has gone up in the last 24 hours, I think.
Will, do you think there's a team out there that you see as having leverage, or maybe that would compete with the Jets as far as picks? I had thought maybe Miami, but Miami doesn't have a first and we have a better second. So like we're well positioned ahead of Miami unless Rodgers says I'm only going to Miami.
Yeah, I think that's what it would come down to. I don't think the leverage would really matter because Rodgers would have to force his way to Miami one way or another. But really quick, because I know the timer's running out, I got a quick question. So if we were to, let's say Lamar got the non-exclusive tag, and it was the price was then 2 picks plus the bag that we got to give him. In theory, couldn't the Ravens then sign the deal and then agree to trade Lamar to us for an extended cost, or is that not like a legal thing? Because that's what I feel like it would come down to.
They could do that. I don't know how the signing bonus works. If they would just have to say like, "Hey, we're not giving you a signing bonus right now," or the signing bonus gets paid in like, the first day of, like at the end of this year or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how that would work because I do think they could match the deal and then move on from him.
Yeah,
but I feel like that gets a little sloppy because I know they took out the poison pill aspect of these types of deals where you sign like you offer a contract that the Ravens can't match. Like let's say you make it $100 million cap hit year one, and like maybe some team has like some stupid amount of cap space, and then you could do that. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I think they can match it, but I think if they match it, maybe it's like I guess maybe the team would have to say you have to sign the signing bonus right now. In which case the Ravens may not be able to match it. I don't know. Interesting stuff. Will, you've been ejected from the cockpit. All right, let's head over to Joe. Joe, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there. What's your opinion on this Derek Carr stuff, Aaron Rodgers? Actually, Joe, hold on. I'm sorry. I had Mr. Uglis drop in a super chat, and I totally missed it. So let me get to this real quick, then I'll get to you, Joe. I am patiently saving up my energy for either a celebration or a monumental meltdown. If it's not Rodgers and then not Lamar, I'll settle for Zach round 3 and the subsequent regime change. Oh, no, I don't want that. I like Douglas. I like Salah. I don't want to see them get booted. I would, God, if we don't go that route, maybe it is better at some point that you go Brissett and you just say, hey, the cheaper contract, bring back your guys. I think at that point you may have to sacrifice like CJ Mosley and like I think you're losing a lot more of your veteran players that you're hoping to keep. Is that what you think, Buffalo?
Yeah, once you go Brissett, then let's be honest, we're just coping. Anything with Brissett or in that tier, we're coping. We're talking ourselves into it. Hey, better than what we've had. We can make the playoffs. Like we're drastically dropping the standard of what we hoped when we started this offseason. So I'm going to try to be an optimistic Jets fan no matter who it is, but let's be honest, man. If it's Brissett or Minshew or Mike White versus whoever, that's going to suck.
I completely agree. Joe, any thoughts on that? What do you think? If it's not Rodgers and it's not Lamar, are you okay with Zach round 3, or is there another quarterback you're eyeing?
Well, like I said, I'm glad we dodged that bullet with Derek Carr. Personally, as you know, I'm not a big fan of his. I want Aaron Rodgers because I think, which we're forgetting, he can mentor Zach Wilson, and I think you will see the fruits of his labor if that happens. But Ryan Tannehill is the man I wanted. I know Buffalo Jets fan does not want him, and I subscribe to you. I like you a lot, man. You're a good one.
Thanks, man.
But I got to say this, though. Let me just talk about Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
I like him. I predicted he would be a good quarterback when he came out of college, and he proved me right. But let me say this. This is nothing new, man. I've seen Randall Cunningham start off like this, maybe not win an MVP, That guy could drop an 80-yard pass on a dime. Michael Vick was the same way, an 85-yard pass on a dime. And Randall Cunningham was on a Vikings, had 2 Hall of Fame receivers, great offense, and couldn't go anywhere. I really don't think, man, Lamar Jackson would be the answer.
We haven't seen him with any options, though. His best option was like Marquise Hollywood Brown, and he looked not so great in Arizona. I think we have the best options he's played with so far.
Yes. I'd be honest with you. Derek Carr, what that showed me, he's about himself. Why would he not come to the Jets? They're a better team than the Saints. Like I said, we should have won about 11 games last year if we had that quarterback situation. If it went right.
It's one of those. It takes two to tango, right? Like the Jets could have wanted to sign Carr all they wanted, but if Carr wanted the Saints the whole time, I can't even hold Douglas against the fire. Like we may not have been able to sign him regardless. And then if you're getting in a bidding war for Carr, now maybe it turns a lot more Jet fans off. I think the perceived notion of like, oh, Carr wants to sign maybe for $35 million has Jet fans feeling a certain way. When the reality may not actually have been that at all. Buffalo, what do you think about the possibility of maybe Carr never wanted to sign a contract with us?
I got the sense the whole time that both the Carr was the Jets' second option and the Jets were Carr's second option. That's how I think the interest was mutual. They both liked each other. Carr liked the Jets, but not as much as the Saints, and the Jets liked Carr, but not as much as Rodgers. That's just my complete guess from the outside looking in.
I just want to say one last thing before I go.
Yeah.
Dan Fouts is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He was great. Great arm. He played with Marino, Joe Montana. I could go on and on. All the quarterbacks he played in the 80s. His first 4 years, he sucked. Look at his passer rating. Look at his completion percentage. It was worse than Zach Wilson's. He went on to become a Hall of Famer. A lot of people giving up on Zach Wilson.
Joe, I love it. Thank you so much. You better check that from the cockpit. Buffalo, how much longer I got you for, brother?
I can hang till 9:20. 8 more minutes.
9:20. Okay, so we get like 2 more calls in here. Let's hammer through this. William, what's up, William? Thank you so much for joining the channel as well, brother.
Hey, Ryan and BJF, my 2 favorite YouTubers. The 2 most handsome as well.
Oh, wow. But, I won't tell Green Beaner, Matt.
I figured I had to call in, Ryan, because you're missing all my texts. But here's what I think. I firmly believe that before Hackett even signed with the Jets, he let Rodgers know that what he was doing, and Rodgers told him that he was coming to the Jets. I think there's already an agreement. I think there has been an agreement, and I think they're just trying to figure out all the paperwork and the fine details, because it's a very, very strange, difficult contract. And I really believe that. In fact, I don't know if you guys saw the interview by Saleh. But if you heard the interview, he kind of indirectly told us that it would be either Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers. And when they asked him about which quarterback, he made, when he'd know, he made a statement like, well, I would have thought it would have been this past week,
right?
But it should be soon. And I think he was referring to Rodgers. You would have thought that Rodgers would have already made up his mind by this past week. So there are some interesting words in that discussion. And go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're absolutely right. I think a trade has been agreed upon in principle behind the scenes, and I think it's been in place for a long time. Like, I think since the Packers knew they were going to move on with Jordan Love, we heard Rodgers say, hey, it seems like the Packers are having discussions without me. That's weird. And I think that was the tip-off of like, okay, they're shopping him. They're looking at trade negotiations based on if Rodgers does ultimately want to come back, they're going to want to move him. I think it's just a matter of, does Rodgers want to uproot his life, or does he want to try and like force his way to stay in Green Bay? Which I don't think he'll end up doing.
No, exactly. And then Joe Douglas and Saleh, I mean, they're not stupid. They know that everything's riding on this year. So I don't think they're going to play Russian roulette with the quarterback situation. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick is, I think Jimmy G is a little better than most fans give him credit for. I mean, he has 87 touchdowns, 41 interceptions in his career, and I'll tell you what, in New England, Tom Brady was scared to death of him. Then Josh McDaniels loved him. He thought he was all ready to take Tommy's job over. So I don't think it'd be so bad. It's just about staying healthy.
Yeah, Garoppolo's always been about the health for me. He clearly has the skill set to at least facilitate you getting to a Super Bowl if you have the right pieces around him. William, thank you so much for the call. You have been ejected from the cockpit. All right, we got one more call with Buffalo Jet Fan, then I'm going to be taking him solo. We've got Mike the Barber. What's up, dude? Welcome to the cockpit.
Hey guys, I'm thinking Carr was a bad option. If they want to overpay for them, that's their problem. Rodgers just makes too much sense. Yeah, I can't imagine anything else. But I want to hear what you have to think about the second option. If Rodgers isn't, what do we do?
So if Rodgers isn't the guy, like if he's not the one that we can wind up snagging and he retires or he goes elsewhere, I'm on board with Lamar, especially if it's 2 first-round picks all day. I would probably go as high as 3 first-round picks before I start pulling the plug and I say, okay, you know what, I'll go maybe a different direction and explore some other options.
I really didn't give it a good guess. I just don't want to be irrelevant and be the same Jets for 10 years. The guy can't stay healthy. Ravens don't want him.
Yeah, there's a lot to be concerned about. It's the injuries, it's the money, it's the smart organization that doesn't want to pay him the money, like all these different things. Especially since Douglas has come from there. Like, at least if the Jets were to trade for Lamar, I would feel like some level of comfort in that, like, the Ravens maybe felt like, hey, we have so many high-priced guys at this particular point, we couldn't do it, where the Jets maybe don't have that right now, and it could just be a numbers game. You'd really have to know the inner workings, because if you're Joe Douglas and you see your former team, passing on this quarterback, why are you giving up the picks to do it? Buffalo, how are you feeling about, the optics of the Ravens passing on Lamar?
Yeah, well, you have to ask yourself, if the Ravens don't value Lamar Jackson for just the money, and you think he's worth the money and 3 first-round picks, yeah, of course you'd have to have some trepidation there. But if the next best option, and again, I don't think Lamar to the Jets is super realistic, but if you make the call and you see what's what. But the next best option after that is Jimmy G, and we know Jimmy G is only good for half a season. So if Jimmy G's your starter, with a Mike White's your backup, he gets hurt. Zach Wilson's on the field. If Jimmy G is your 1 and Mike White's your 2, Zach Wilson's playing. So I would rather roll the dice on a superstar and just cross your fingers that Lamar stays healthy and that over the likes of Jimmy G. So I would have preferred Carr just signing him because he's more durable. You don't have to go with the picks. But if it's Lamar and you can make that happen, or signing Jimmy G, personally, I would go with Lamar.
So, Mike, what's your backup option if you don't get Rodgers?
I don't have one. All my pieces are Rodgers. I'm not overpaying. I'm not giving more than a second-round pick for the guy. I think a deal is done. I think we're set. And you got to remember, Douglas is not scared at the moment, meaning he already has a plan.
He is cooler than the other side of the pillow. Mike, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Buffalo, thank you so much for hopping on, doing a few calls, and talking some ball with me. You want to let these guys know where they can find you and what you got going on?
Sure. Twitter, YouTube, BuffaloJetFan, talk Jets, have fun, good stuff. I'll see you guys soon.
All right, Buffalo, you know what that means. You have been ejected from the cockpit. Oh, boys and girls, Buffalo Jet Fan, the one, the only. All right, we're going to keep taking some phone calls here. Got another 45 minutes to go. Up next, let's see, we've got NY Football Jets on TikTok. What's up, dude? Welcome to the
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, brother.
All right, here we go. Okay, I did some research for you. The Jets have had 24 starting QBs in their history. 24.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pull out the ones out of that 24 that probably could have won a Super Bowl. There's Joe Namath. He won a Super Bowl, actually. What am I talking about? Richard Todd could have won a Super Bowl. There was the Mud Bowl. Ken O'Brien was damn good, very underrated quarterback. Could definitely have won a Super Bowl. Vinny Testaverde absolutely in 1998 should have won a Super Bowl. Chad Pennington, if Doug Bryan made one of those 2 field goals, we potentially could have won a Super Bowl with Chad Pennington. Mark Sanchez, absolutely. You go to 2 AFC Championship games in a row. So here we are again, not sure who our quarterback is, but yet when you look back on our history, as soon as Sanchez, we could have won a Super Bowl with a QB. Now we want to get stuck in this going after Aaron Rodgers. Have we learned nothing about Brett Favre? Why are we doing this as Jet fans? Why do we want this? Like, do we
Because
really
our most
want this?
successful
I'm asking you.
quarterbacks in the last 30 years have been free agents. It's been, Vinny Testaverde. It's been not free agent, but it's been veteran guys. It's been Vinny Testaverde. It's been Brett Favre. It's been Fitzpatrick. It's been McCown. We're going with the vet guy. The pressure crumbles all these young guys. And now that you have social media as a new whirlwind that we didn't have in the past, I do think a vet presence in New York specifically, or a very particular type of personality, which I don't think we have on the roster in a rookie. I think the Jets are going to wind up going for Rodgers because they have the hope of 2 years of Rodgers, 10 years of Zach, or 2 years of Rodgers and then 1 year of someone else sitting behind Rodgers if they don't want to exercise the option on Zach.
Well, I just think that everyone wants Aaron Rodgers, but not all Jet fans, I don't think really want to go through this anymore. It's been a while for the Jets.
Oh yeah.
But here's my this is at the worst I think is gonna happen before you kick me out.
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett, the Jets signed Jacoby Brissett, and then they say we are going with Zach Wilson at starting quarterback, and we are gonna keep Mike White and go. What do you think of that scenario? I just want to know what you think of that, and keeping your draft picks, not trading away your life.
The only way I do that is Brissett and White battle it for QB1, and Zach gets the redshirt year. I think Zach should get a redshirt year regardless. And if the panic move is Brissett, I actually like Brissett a lot. I have no issues with Brissett whatsoever. I think he's a very good quarterback, and I think you win the AFC East potentially if you had him last year. I would be okay maybe with that situation. I would still go Lamar, I think, and give up the picks and the money and all that crazy stuff instead of going Brissett and White, but I would be okay with going Brissett and White if they chose that.
Okay. You see, I don't think anyone talks about that, so I think that's acceptable. I just don't want us to get hurt.
It's very underwhelming. It's a kick in the balls. That's what it is. But it's I think acceptable is baseline.
Totally,
you're not getting more season tickets. You better knock down the price. It's going to be a world of hurt.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Anyway, all I'm going to say is Zach Wilson was 5-2 with Breece Hall. Okay, wow, that was pretty impressive. I'll be honest.
We talk about Zach Wilson 5-2. No, good call. Brought up some knowledge there. I actually like that. That was solid. Juan, what's up, Juan? Welcome to the cockpit.
How you doing, Ryan?
I'm hanging in there. How you feeling about Derek Carr?
I'm kind of angry, but also happy.
Mm-hmm.
The contract, that's what I thought we would offer Carr. The only thing I'm concerned about is the timing when they announced it, because it seems like after we had the meeting with Carr, 24 hours later, he picked somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you think do you think he used us for leverage, or do you think he was realistically an option for us?
I don't think we were leverage. I think more the Panthers were leverage. I think he was just jockeying both of us and the Saints back and forth.
I think that's fair.
I think because him going to the Saints, does that move the needles for the Saints? It doesn't really make him a contender.
I think in the NFC, I think it does. I think Carr, you could argue Carr is a top 5 quarterback in the NFC now. I mean, it's probably, once Rodgers gets traded out, it's Hurts and Stafford. And then, I'd have to kind of run through names in my head. Geno Smith is up there probably in terms of who you're talking about. I think Carr going there, that's the easiest path to the playoffs for him, because he's immediately, I would think, the top team in that division at least.
Yeah, but are you is he seeing it more for the future? Because the Saints got a lot of questions, a lot of guys that are good, but they're on the tail end of their career. So are you going to wait out another rebuild?
He's a religious man. He is a man of faith, my friend. I could absolutely see him. Hey, you put stock in me, drafting me when I was just a young kid out of Fresno State. Now I'm going to come to you. You might have a little bit of a rebuild, but I'm here. You guarantee me the 2 years. We'll see it through. We'll get it figured out. I think Carr's a team player, and I could see him, staying in a very stable situation, and having the 2 years, $60 million means he's probably going to be able to renegotiate that contract after those 2 years anyway, because he's not going to play for just like a non-guaranteed amount.
Yeah, I could see that. It's just I don't know that division. They might make some moves. I don't know that division every year. You see it for the last few years, except when Tom Brady got there. Every year was a new person winning that division. So
I could see Lamar going to Atlanta. I could see Tom Brady going to like Miami. I could see the whole quarterback landscape is going to be wildly interesting for next year. I like this whole quarterback movement thing. I like Russell Wilson moving. I like Watson moving. I think it creates some fun dynamics in the league. Where do you stand on like the quarterbacks moving? You like it or you don't?
I do like it because it gives us stuff to talk about, and then you get these rumors and things like that, and there's not a lot of teams that are heavyweights anymore. It's more a little more spread out now. But another thing, I don't see Lamar going to Atlanta.
Really?
I think
why not?
No.
You think he's going to force his way to Miami or something?
No, I don't see Miami either. It's pretty much it's Baltimore or us, I think, right now.
You know what I didn't even consider? If Miami did want to get him, they'd have to give up the 2 firsts, but since they don't have a first this year, it's almost like a better trade for them, right? They could give up the deal.
But I think Miami's just waiting for Brady to decide what he wants to do. I think that's what they're waiting for. But Lamar, I think if in a perfect world, we only got to give up 2 draft picks.
Boom! One you gone. Good call. Like it. All right, we got Pat joining the show. Pat, how you doing tonight?
Not bad. How are yourself, Ryan?
I am hanging in there. I was a little doom and gloom earlier watching the Carr stuff happen. I was hoping we would be able to dictate the futures of these quarterbacks, but clearly they have minds of their own.
Yeah, I saw your show later, the one earlier from today.
It sucks. I just hope it's got to be Rodgers, right? Like talk me off a cliff. Or talk me back from the ledge. It's got to be Rodgers, right?
I can't say it's got to be Rodgers. The only thing I can talk you off is your thought process of Rodgers to Miami.
I think I've been saying Rodgers to Miami for like the last 4 or 5 days. It makes so much sense with them being wishy-washy on Tua, and then even being able to have Tua waiting in the wings and Rodgers maybe only wanting to play 1 year. Like, I think Brady for them might provide a better option, because I definitely think Brady's done in a year. I think Rodgers, you got the 2 years, plus you got to worry about the contract. So if Miami thinks Brady's a realistic option, I don't think they go for Rodgers, but I think Rodgers should want to go to Miami.
Well, my thought is, if they don't have a draft pick this year, first, our second's better than theirs.
Yep.
Who's to say Green Bay doesn't turn around and say, we want Rodgers for Tyreek, and now Rodgers like, I'm throwing to who?
Throwing a Waddle? I don't think it would be. Yeah, the nice thing about Miami is our second round pick. If we decide it's a second round pick this year and a conditional pick next year, we should beat everyone except for the Raiders and the Titans. Like, I don't know other teams that would be in this conversation, because I don't even think my concern is if the Jets get too greedy and the Packers say, screw it, he's only got a year or 2 left, we're going to trade him within the NFC also. Now you got to bid against all the NFC teams, because now you're going after Atlanta and Carolina and Tampa Bay and the 49ers. And like the 49ers to me seem like a home run of a landing spot. They could figure out $15 million in salary cap space to get Rodgers if they wind up opening that up. Now, I don't know how many draft picks they realistically have, but they might have a player that they could give Green Bay that would be worth more than the pick we're giving up.
see, I'm about to run out of time, but that was my point. Was I think Tyreek's the only thing that's worth a first round this year. So, and then I live in Carolina. Conception has it here is they're drafting a quarterback.
Yeah.
Everything else, is smoke and mirrors.
Do you think they're
they don't
moving
want
up to
Bush.
1 to get him? Or do you think they're going to sit at 9?
It depends on who go. It depends if who they really want. I don't know. You don't hear who they want. Their GM is no, not even their GM. Their owner is so out of whack. He will throw money wherever he can, and he's got to fix this quarterback thing.
Yeah, I think they're gonna throw money at it. I'm curious to see if they. I think they're gonna need to trade up if they want to get him, and they traded away McCaffrey to have all those extra picks to do just that. And for me, I think it would make a ton of sense if Seattle trades up to 1 to select Anthony Richardson and let him sit for a few years behind Geno on this contract. I think that would make a ton of sense. I think Bryce Young at 2 to the Texans makes a lot of sense. CJ Stroud at 4 to the Colts. And then I really think the Raiders are going to draft Levis at 7. I think Carolina is going to have to move up unless they don't think Richardson goes before them. But I feel like after that combine, he's got to go, in front of them, at least Atlanta in front of them. And even if Atlanta trades with Baltimore, I feel like Baltimore would take him.
Well, they also have the guy they drafted last year sitting behind who he didn't, if I remember correctly, he didn't touch the field at all because they had PJ, they had Baker, and they had Sam, all, and then the guy they drafted all sitting around, and everybody else but the guy they drafted. So,
yeah, they could sit on him. They could wait, see what he's got. Pat, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Oh, we got my buddy Tigo. You want to hop on the visual aspect of this? All right, Tigo's coming on. Let me figure out what I got to do with this. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. What's up, Tigo? How you doing?
That was quicker than I expected.
Had the button all queued up. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Like, honestly, like, even with the whole Derek Carr situation, wow, Justin Thomas, a huge dodo. Even with all the Carr stuff, I'm like, you know what? I'm not that worried about it. I think there's too much smoke for there not to be fire with, the fact that they want to move on from Aaron Rodgers. And by that, I mean Green Bay, right? Like, it just makes too much sense there. And then when you look at the situation of teams that can go get him, there are very few owners. And here's the key piece, right? Everyone keeps talking about these teams like, oh, hey, like in the last caller, Carolina might want to do this, or, San Francisco might want to do this. And San Francisco makes sense. I think that's where Tom Brady ends up if he does come out of retirement ultimately. Miami might want to do this. Insert other team might. And like my thing is like people forget that like an ownership group is going to look at that contract and be like, wait. So you're telling me I have to pay him $100 million in the next 2 years? And there are very few owners that are going to feel comfortable with that if they don't think their team is a quarterback away. And that's where I look at it and I go, Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets is the only option because Vegas was never in it because their own, like they literally, a report came out that they couldn't fire Josh McDaniels because they couldn't afford to pay Gruden, McDaniels, and a new head coach.
I think that's okay. So here's my thought on this. I think that is complete bogus. Justin, we'll get to your super chat in just a second. I got fired up here. I don't think that's true. One, because I think they settled with Gruden, and I think that contract was, ultimately maybe not fully paid out, but I think there was some type of payment there. I think for better or worse, the Raiders have allowed their head coach and GM to do whatever they want, so they were not going to move on from him anyway. And this whole they don't have enough money to like fire McDaniels. The dude just built a stadium and moved his team to Vegas. His net worth doubled in the time since COVID, and he wound up buying a WNBA franchise as well. Like I feel like the guy is pig rich with money, and he's only gonna have to put in the $110 million into escrow. I think the Raiders were not in on Rodgers because Rodgers didn't make sense with McDaniels more so than the Raiders not being able to financially afford Rodgers, I guess, or Vegas to financially afford him.
It's a big part of the conversation that I don't think enough people are talking about.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say they're not going to be involved, but I do think the Jets are probably the only option, and I do think that's why we're going to get him for a lot less than people think. Justin Thomas comes in with a super chat. Says, do we use the second round tender on Bryce Huff, which is $3.5 million, then use him in a trade for Rodgers? Because if we use the second round tender on him, we lose him anyways because he's a cheap established pass rusher. No, I would tag him with the first round tender because it's only like $5 or $6 million. And one, I would not want to trade him anyway. But two, if you were to trade him, I would rather trade him with the perception that he's a value of a first rounder, not a second rounder. I don't want to lose Bryce Huff for $3.5 million to another team for a second round pick. That would be a very big mistake. Tigo, your thoughts?
I agree with the first part, not the second part. I would not hit him with the first round tender because $6.5 million when we are so tight to the cap. And we still have to bring in a defensive tackle because we only have one under contract. And, we got to bring back linebackers and all of those things. And the other big thing is I love Huff. So don't get this as me trying to say I don't like Huff. I love Huff, but it's 1 year of production. And that's the concern. I know that internally as Jets fans, we're all in love with this guy. I don't know if that same perception exists with the rest of the league. And so the way that I look at it is it's a pay raise for sure. If you hit him with the second round tender, that's what I would do. I think that's the right move. I am not trading him away. He, to me, is coming in to kind of be a facsimile of a replacement for Carl Lawson because I think he's gone because of that contract. And so that makes a lot of sense. And then if he reproduces at the same level, you hit him with the Jacob Martin contract. 3 years, $5 or $6 million a year, 2 of those years guaranteed, and you keep him around. That makes the most sense in my eyes. And the other thing that us as Jets fans need to kind of get used to is we're a good football team. We're going to lose good football players, and that's part of the process. And getting a second rounder for a guy that we got for free, he was an undrafted free agent, especially in a class that has a lot of really good edge talent, is one of those things where I'm more willing to take that risk. I love Bryce Huff, and I hope to God that he's still on this team moving forward. But Huff, this is the first year where he's really and truly showed up and showed out. Because before, he was kind of I remember at the beginning of the year, people were talking about cutting him. Different channels and all that stuff. And so I wasn't on that wagon. I loved Huff, but it's 1 year of solid production. We can't just hit him with it's the Danny Dimes situation, right? How is he going to get $40 million after 1 year under Dable? Dude, run it back once more.
Nah, I think he's going to get it. I think he's going to get 3 years, 120. I think he's going to get it. And I think if he were a free agent, I would give him 3 years, 120. I think that makes a lot of sense.
If you're the Giants, yes.
You're hoping the
not
upside.
anybody else.
No, I think you could. I mean, his biggest issue was the turnovers. And I don't know, was Dable responsible for him holding onto the ball more? It's possible. Is he going to forget that when he leaves Dable? It's possible. Does Dable's offense, maximize Jones' production? I think there's something to be said for that. I don't know. It's interesting. I think with Bryce Huff, for me, if you give him the second round tender, you have to be okay with him walking, because I think if I were any team around the league that needed an edge rusher, I would give up a second round pick all day for him. So for me, I would use him. If you're going to lose him for a second and you can swap out the draft pick and give them an edge rusher instead of a second round pick, is that what you think would wind up happening if they were to trade a player? Would it be a replacement, or would it be Huff goes with the picks as well?
I don't think Green Bay would want the player. Wouldn't you just want
They want picks.
They want the picks. That would make the most sense, right? Because if you were to trade Huff, and he's a valuable piece and he could be looked at as a second round equivalent, right? But in this scenario, even in this, let's just specifically talk about the Justin Thomas scenario. You would only have him under contract for 1 year, and then isn't he a UFA next year? If you RFA tag him, he doesn't have another year of RFA. So wouldn't you just want the second round pick to control for 4 years at a much lesser contract, especially in a class that's so heavy at edge, again, I would give him the second round tender just period, right? Because I really like Huff, and at $3.5 million,
Lose
that makes
him,
a lot of
draft
sense.
Nolan Smith out of Georgia.
But again, I don't think we lose him. That's the thing. I honestly don't think we lose him.
So you think someone doesn't give up a second round pick for him? If you think you won't lose him, I like the second round pick option because it's half the price, right? Like it's $6 million compared to $3.5 million.
That's the big caveat is I don't think you lose him. Like the biggest aspect of this is this year's draft. This is why you second round tender him, is because you can just get Nolan Smith in the second. Right? Like there are going to be guys who aren't going to be as good, but you're going to have at a much cheaper deal and control for the next 4 years. Somebody might like I'm not the biggest fan of him. Like somebody might like an Andre Carter in the bottom of the second instead of trading for Huff for 1 year. So like it's a give and take. So I think you keep him around for 1 year. He's going to do the same thing he did last year. You hit him with the Jacob Martin contract next year when you have more money, and then boom. Everything works out easy breezy.
No, you see, you buy a bunch of talent now. You make it so you have no cap space for next year. You bring him back on the 3.5, so you can't sign any more free agents, so you don't screw up the comp pick formula. Huff gets a massive contract elsewhere. You get a comp third-round pick back for him, and you got to use him for 1 year.
Exactly. Like, that's another, like, we've got to start playing the comp pick game so hard. Because like a great example of that is like, look at the Rams and what they were able to do for years, right? The last first round pick they had was Jared Goff. They've just been playing the comp. Yeah, they've just been playing the comp pick game. They're picking 4 or 5 times in the third round. Same thing with San Francisco. You pick this many times in the third and the fourth round, and those are the guys that are filling out your roster. That's what the New York Jets, I think, have to start pivoting to. We don't need the superstars anymore.
You need to draft the players first. Like once you start drafting good players, and we're getting to that point, right? Like I think we haven't gotten to the point yet because we don't have the contracts from our players. We're going to get it with Quinnen. We'll get it with AVT. We'll get it with Sauce. We'll get it with Garrett Wilson, with Breece Hall. So like it will happen where we're going to have tighter cap space. And then, like you said, the good teams draft well and let talent walk so they have affordable contracts to retain their key pieces and they get comp picks. Not to mention, like, the Jets should be trying to groom the minority coaches on their roster as well, because if they wind up getting signed as a head coach to another team, you get a third round pick. You better believe San Francisco's loving the fact that we got Robert Saleh, the fact that DeMeco Ryans is down in Houston, and now I think McDaniel may have gotten them a pick as well, because I think he's some sort of minority as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's all of those things. It's that conversation that you keep hearing about, like, our DB coach and our safety coach are being looked at as defensive coordinator candidates. That's huge. Like, that should be a big deal, and
Ron Middleton.
Ron Middleton is being looked at seriously for coordinator jobs and things like that. Like, there's a lot of these things going on that we really got to start, playing the comp pick formula game. And this is, like, again, going back to the thing where it's just like, we have to be able to let players go. We have to be comfortable with that, and we got to trust that JD is going to be able to replace them.
Mudvile says, "Hey Ryan, you got Mike McDaniels on the show. Go Jets." Are they saying you look like Mike McDaniels?
Yeah, that's everywhere. It's like, hey, look, it's Mike McDaniels.
Oh,
I wish he wasn't in Miami, man.
I like him a lot.
I'd love to like him.
Yeah, I do like him. I think he's one of the more likable head coaches in the league. He's a little doofy. Like, when he first signed there, people were calling him Bong Shula, and I thought that was a great nickname for him. He seems like a college dropout. He's like, yo, man, I got this idea for some plays, man. He's like all jacked up. I could see that being McDaniels in college.
Yeah, that's so funny because it's true. And like the thing too is like, I remember when we were hiring Saleh, I was like, I really hope we bring McDaniels with us, because that's that of the two coordinators, that's the one that I wanted. And it's just like, dang it.
Yeah, it's funny. As soon as Saleh was pulled to be the head coach, I'm pretty positive it was like, hey, McDaniel, you're becoming OC. That way the passing coordinator got pulled over in LaFleur instead of McDaniel, because I think McDaniel would have been the selection. And it would have been the right move. That's actually the one I did want at the time. I was really happy with LaFleur. Heck, I really like LaFleur's offense. We just don't have a quarterback that's smart enough to fucking run it.
He's also not smart enough. like LaFleur is like also not smart enough to play around that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, this is why I'm kind of excited for Hackett. And like, I am, but I'm not like super worried about the quarterback thing because like Hackett in the same system that we ran took Blake Bortles to an AFC championship. Like,
yeah,
this is like, that's a serious thing to look at in the same scheme.
And I think Breece Hall is better than Leonard Fournette. I think whatever quarterback we have under center should be better than Blake Bortles. I think our receiving weapons are probably better than Allen Hurns and young Richardson, whatever the fuck his for Allen Richardson. There it is. Robinson. Words are hard.
It's one of those things where, like I said, there's a lot of similarities and things that you can kind of look at. And I just look at it and I go, I think our defense for what the NFL is now is just as good, if not better, than what Jacksonville had. If you look at it piece for piece, we've got studs at every part of the defense where they had studs at. I think their safety room obviously was better than ours. And like you said, I think offensively we're better.
That time.
I remember looking it up.
I mean, our safeties are not good, so I would think that checks out. But that was like Ramsey. Was that Miles Jack too? I think they had him because I think he was 2016 second round pick. I'm pretty sure Calais Campbell was still there at that point. Like that was a scary team that they had down in Jacksonville. I think that's the blueprint they're going to try and mimic the team after. And I think if you get Rodgers, then you negotiate with all your free agents. I think that Joe Douglas is definitely waiting because he knows he's going to have to pay a premium to those players if we don't get Rodgers.
Yeah.
Or it's a different plan. Like if you don't get Rodgers, now all of a sudden, hey, CJ Mosley, $21.5 million. Sorry, dude. You're out of here. And like, all of a sudden you start losing probably more pieces. Like you probably don't bring back Rankins. You probably don't bring back Mosley. Like I think the team looks drastically different with veteran quarterback and without veteran quarterback.
Yeah, because people are you're gonna if you can pitch like, hey, you can like to CJ. I think it's the best example, which is like, CJ, you're at the twilight of your career. You're either going to be on this team or you're not going to be on this team. Those are the two options. We either negotiate or we cut you because those are the only options that we have. $21 million isn't going to do it. So like, dude, let's restructure. Let's make you a Jet for the rest of your career. You're going to retire as a Jet. And you know what? Hey, Aaron Rodgers is on the other side of the field. You're not going to have to play that much. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. And then
you make more money by playing less.
Exactly.
Right? Like your dollar per snap is a lot higher.
And then you got to look at it like, I think the biggest competition we're going to have for these middling players is Houston because like D'Amico's going to run the same system and they have a crap ton of money. And so it's going to be like, do you want a ring or do you want the bag? And if you want the bag,
I think Quan's going there. If I were Quan, I would go there. I think we're going to wind up losing him. Quincy, if he wants a lot of money, I'm out on Quincy. I like Quincy for what he is. I don't want to give him a lot of money.
I'm in the same boat, but like, again, you go to these guys and say, look, Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. Like, we're going to seriously compete for a Super Bowl. You're going to be able to convince guys to come back on a cheaper deal. And not just that, I think you're going to be able to convince free agents to come back on a cheaper deal. So like a Tremaine Edmonds might come in at 9 or 10
that would
instead
be
of the 11
interesting.
12. Because why not go chase a ring and stick it to Buffalo, who didn't want to keep you? There's a lot there.
I like that.
There's a lot there. Hey, I'm gonna let you go. Obviously, the show's wrapping up. I want other people to get their opportunity and all that stuff. I was expecting the 3-minute and the chicken. Hit me with the chicken.
Sorry.
I love the chicken.
I wanted to keep talking. Take it easy, Tigo. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Tigo's out of here. All right, we got V-Man calling in. Nice to hear from Vinny. Vinny, how you doing tonight?
What's up?
How you feeling about this car news, Vinny?
It's not the end of the world to me because the simple fact, look, how long has it been since the Derek Carter news broke? Half a day?
Yeah, that broke probably around 11 o'clock or so, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, like I said, and think about it. Since the news broke, we haven't heard one buzz or leak about the Jets making any potential offer. So what does that tell you? Think about when the Jets lost out on the bid for Tyreek Hill. It wasn't that long before the news on that broke about the Jets offer, right?
Yeah.
Like, we would have heard something. What does that tell you? It tells you that they never were interested in Derek Carr, and what is the reason for that? It's
Well,
because
it's the same reason we're thinking that Dwayne Brown resigned and, Nathaniel Hackett came here. There's a lot of breadcrumbs. I'm trying not to get my
here's my theory that the Aaron Rodgers deal is done is that they're keeping it lock and key because Aaron Rodgers is an attention whore. And I think what he wants to do the same thing that LeBron did 13 years ago with the decision. Like
the decision, do it on McAfee or something.
Yeah, something like he wants to make a big spectacle of it for everybody, so everybody pays attention to it. And I think I think all parties have agreed to keep it shut, keep their mouths shut about it. And it's probably kept to an inner circle of just a handful in the Jets, Packers, and in Rodgers all know about it, and they're all zip tight.
Yeah, I think there's also, from the league perspective, I think it does more for the league if Rodgers isn't traded real fast because there's more engagement. There's all these videos of us talking about different things and fans tweeting and retweeting things. And, the Jets and Packers are on ESPN nonstop. It provides a lot of
attention.
Attention. Yeah, he's an attention whore. I think that's a good way to put it.
You're talking about a marquee quarterback and a team that plays in the biggest media market on the planet. So that's attention. The league loves attention. And Aaron Rodgers loves attention. So that's my theory. And I see a lot of pessimistic Jets fans, but what has this front office, stop putting the mistakes of past regimes on this one. It's not their fault. This is not the regime that went to go get damn it, brain farting on the name. Fucking
Kirk
the
Cousins?
bum from Denver.
Russell Wilson?
No, the 2011 bum from Denver.
Are you talking Peyton or Tebow? It's Tebow.
It's not the front office. It's not the front office that made the Tebow.
It's the same owner. The same guy that writes the check.
I get that part, but he's made it clear that he is leaving this to the football people. And until we see otherwise.
I think that's right. I don't think Woody's meddling. I think it's a very popular narrative that people are running with, but I don't think there's anything to it. V-Man, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Justin Thomas says Broncos shopping Cortland Sutton had a good year with Hackett. Yeah, I would go after Sutton. I think the Jets should look for a veteran wide receiver. I don't want to draft a receiver after looking at the combine and seeing how this class of receivers is coming out. I don't think it's somewhere I want to go. I'd rather go other directions with our earlier picks, primarily offensive line, safety, linebacker, things of that nature. So I would look at Cortland Sutton. I would look at Odell Beckham. I would look at DeAndre Hopkins. I would look at Michael Thomas. I would look at all the big name, free agent or trade potential options for the New York Jets. And Cortland Sutton's probably my top option because of the age and the familiarity with our wide receiver coach now, who was his wide receiver coach, and obviously Nathaniel Hackett as well. We got Sonny joining the show. Sonny, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Ryan. How are you, man?
I am hanging in there. How you feeling about all this Derek Carr stuff?
I gotta tell you the truth. When I first seen the report earlier that the end up signing with the Saints.
You muted yourself. Okay. Nope, I hear you.
I was a little disappointed. My heart kind of stopped for a minute when he signed with the Saints, but let's be honest, we're just all in on Rodgers at this point. Missing out on Carr, if you get another guy.
The Jets may have felt that, Carr at $40 million or $35, let's say there's a cheaper price for the Jets or something like that. But I think they could have talked about Carr at any amount, 35 to 40. How much better is that than someone like a Brissett who might be had for $20 million or whatever. I don't even know if he necessarily costs that much.
Right. Let me ask you this, Ryan, and I hate to go down this road even, because I'm still hoping for Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the plan A, B, C, and D fails. Rodgers retires or stays with Green Bay. Jimmy G goes to Las Vegas. What do you think their real options are afterwards?
I think it's Carr. Well, I think it was always going to be in our mind. I think it was probably Rodgers, Jimmy G, and then Tannehill. So like, let's say Rodgers retires, Jimmy G goes to Vegas, Tannehill doesn't get traded, they restructure him and they hold on to him. Now I think I'm gonna look at Lamar. I'd poke around there, see what it would cost, what he's looking to get paid, and then if that is too far out of our price range or something like that, I would probably pivot to what a previous caller had said in Brissett, Mike White as the quarterback 1, quarterback 2, and then Zach as quarterback 3. You're just hoping to develop them. I think the team would really like to see Mike White back.
I mean, I agree. I want Mike White back either way. Only if I get Rodgers, then you don't really need Mike White.
I think if you get one of the higher price guys, White's gone. But I think in the situation where you have Brissett, I think that is a Mike White, formula to come back here.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the amazing thing about all this is these conversations would never take place if Zach worked out. And I mean, we would have had everything perfectly in line. The defense, all of these young guys they've been drafting, we would have been on our way to being a 5-6 year contender, where you're making the playoffs every year, you're winning some games, and you wouldn't
Zach
have to
was
think
the
about
right.
these free agents.
When I look at Zach, I look at it as there's the right pick at the time. That was you can make the right pick and the player busts. And then I think you can make the wrong pick and it's clearly the wrong pick at the time and that player's not good. I think Zach was the right selection at the time. It just hasn't worked out, whether that be because of our coaching staff, because he's not a good player. And I think hindsight, look, and if you wanted to play the hindsight game, you probably trade down with the 49ers. You probably pick up Jimmy G at that point. And then, maybe there's a situation where you draft, you probably have someone like a Micah Parsons or something along those lines.
Ryan,
on this team.
I think we would have had Jimmy G this year if Trey Lance stood healthy.
I think we would have had Jimmy G if Zach Wilson tore his ACL.
Yeah.
I think that's what would have happened. If Zach went down that first game, I think Jimmy G was here. That was I had a video. I made the whole video. I was like, okay, I got work the next day. I'm gonna make this whole video. We're gonna do it as if the Jets made the trade. So I was like, okay, I got these options. Or I'm gonna sorry. It was if Zach tore the ACL, I had the video queued up for my 3 options that the Jets could go with, and Jimmy G was the top one. I was like, I'm cool with Jimmy G. And now in hindsight, you almost kind of wish. The injury was a little bit worse because then Zach would have had the redshirt year and you would have had Jimmy G. That's a weird situation. But, Sonny, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. All right, we got Jay hopping on. Jay, how you doing tonight?
What's going on, bud?
I'm hanging in there. How you feeling about this Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson news we got going
on? To be quite honest, I was a little surprised this morning. I was at work and I got the news. My gut feeling is that obviously we as fans and outsiders, we don't know what's going on. And I think I don't think Joe Douglas is sitting there hoping to sign Rodgers. I think it's a done deal. I mean, trade for Rodgers. I think it's a done deal behind the scenes. If they have to pull it, man. I'm gonna be honest, as a Jets fan for my entire life, I'm a bit frustrated, man. Enough of the nonsense.
Do you not want Rodgers?
No, I do. I'm saying if we don't get him, I think there's gonna be a lot of upset fans. Jimmy G doesn't do it for me. And I'm just a little frustrated with just the team in general. When the hell are we gonna pull that trade? When are we gonna make that move to take us over the hump and really make us relevant?
I think that's cool. Do you think they make a Lamar trade? If Rodgers falls through,
absolutely, 100%. Jimmy G just doesn't do it for me. Nobody else does it for me. I'm sorry. You sign those type of guys, you're not thinking Super Bowl. You're just thinking about maybe we get to the playoffs. It might hold.
Yeah,
it might
kick
hold
the
us
can
off
down
another
the road
year
a
or
year.
so. Yeah. And I'm tired of that. I really am. I'm tired of hearing, we did really well last year. And I don't want to hear that shit anymore.
Yeah, I'll take 3 magical years of Lamar, and then the rest is shit. It didn't work out. Like whatever, home run.
I don't want to
Let's
hear
go
that
for
shit
it
anymore. Like, oh, we did pretty good. We just had a quarterback. I'm tired of hearing that shit.
We got to win
enough is
now
enough.
while Sauce and Garrett Wilson are on their rookie contracts. Like, who gives a shit if we got to pay the quarterback now?
Yeah, guess what? Sauce, in a few years, is going to be the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. No doubt about it. So expect to pay him $25 million to $30 million by that time. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the first $30 million cornerback. Garrett Wilson is going to be top 5 paid wide receivers in the NFL. Breece Hall, expect to throw the bank at him unless you franchise tag him. By then, it's going to be 15, 16 million, whatever the hell it's going to be.
Well, that's what's so nice about Rodgers, right? Because you get Rodgers for the 2 years, and then you sign all your free agents, and then you're probably bringing in a rookie with the high-priced free agents or with the high-priced players you have on your roster anyway. So, like, you can keep your guys if you go with Rodgers or if you go with that stopgap 2-year option. So that's why I like a Brissett in the event that you don't wind up getting a Lamar or Rodgers isn't like the worst. It's more of like a kick the can down the road, like you said.
I'd rather have, I'm going to be honest with you, brother, I'd rather have Mike White.
I think with Brissett, I think you could bring back Mike White too. I think you could have both of them. And I think Brissett would be the veteran presence that you need and could always be available. And I think the plan would be hopefully to start Mike White. I think. I mean, they call it competition.
They have to pull something. They have to do something, man. It's got to be Rodgers or Lamar. They have to. And I don't mean to, I sound like every other Jets fan, but I'm just over the bullshit. Oh, we're doing well. Oh, we're doing a little better. Enough
No
of that
more
nonsense,
moral
man.
victories. Get me some fucking W's. Jay, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. All right, that was a pretty good call-in show. I enjoyed that. We've got a fun little dynamic for you guys. You guys saw some of my little pop-ups that were going before. I got a fun little thing we're going to break out for the Talkin' Jets panel tomorrow. Very, very excited to have some fun with you guys. But we have reached the end of our call-in show. We have hit that point in the show where I say good night. It has been far too long for Ryan. I'm exhausted. I say I'm exhausted. I'm going to go hop on some Call of Duty, drop into some Warzone. But boys and girls, I want to hear from you guys down below in the comment section. Do you think it's going to be Rodgers? Do you think it's going to be Lamar? Do you think it's going to be Jimmy G? Do you think it's going to be some other kind of quarterback? Do you think there's any news that gets dropped on Pat McAfee tomorrow? I haven't heard that Rodgers is going to be on it, but it would not shock me if it was like a blip pop-up moment and he called in to McAfee to do it. We'll see. I hope it ends soon. I'm exhausted. I'm mentally exhausted from all this quarterback stuff. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always,
That's it. You're out of here.
JETS.
I think every single person in this locker room is a competitor at the highest level. So yeah, when you feel as if your back's against the wall, you never have to feel like you got to do it by yourself.
Under pressure. Sacked by Quentin Williams. Right sideline, Usama's got it.
You look to your left and your right, you got guys out there with you that our whole point is to help each other.
This one to Mims. That's Corey Davis climbing the ladder.
To be able to go out and lead these guys, just to know how hard these guys work and how important it is to them, and then you get that chance to lead them. Everything that happened that needed to happen for us, it almost felt like kind of like a sign, like get like a second chance almost.
Gets extra pushes, running left.
Maybe a little extra life breathing in the locker room.
Touchdown Jets.